In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 college football games happening on December 30th, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 college football games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start: if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below, where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Coastal Carolina versus Louisiana Tech. At first glance, this number really does look fair for Louisiana Tech. They have the better record, have treated bettors much more kindly, and walk into this matchup with what feels like genuine momentum. Coastal Carolina, in contrast, looks like a team sliding downhill, with 3 straight losses and the last 2 turning into full-on blowouts where the Chanticleers gave up more than 50 points in each. So if you just stare at the surface, it makes sense that the Bulldogs are asked to lay this kind of price. Let me explain why that comfort fades once you scratch past the surface. Louisiana Tech is being asked to do something it has struggled with repeatedly this season: handle the favorite role and handle it with authority. They have dropped 3 of their last 4 games outright when laying points, starting with that flat outing against Kennesaw State that quietly showed their ceiling is lower than the market wanted to believe. Their cleaner performances have come when they are catching points, where expectations are lighter, pressure is softer, and they can play freer without needing to boss the game. Shifting from that underdog mindset to suddenly winning by margin is not a small adjustment, and treating it like a flip of a switch is risky. Yes, they have won 2 straight, and yes, both came as small underdogs. That is part of the problem. Those wins have boosted how the market feels about Louisiana Tech without really changing who they are as a team. They are still volatile, still inconsistent, and still untrustworthy when they have to dictate terms instead of react. That is exactly what people mean when they talk about a false favorite. Coastal Carolina, on the other side, walks in with nothing to protect. The recent results have pushed them completely out of betting conversations, which is a big reason this spread has stretched into this territory in the first place. Here is the thing: they do not need to be the better team for this ticket to make sense. They simply have to be competitive for 4 quarters. When you combine Louisiana Tech's habit of stumbling as the chalk with the overall volatility and uncertainty around both sides, asking them to clear 9 points feels like too big a leap. As our first pick for this matchup, the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. Coastal Carolina comes into this one trying to snap a 3-game losing streak, and in those 3 losses they allowed 59, 51, and 45 points. That is not just leaky defense, that is defense that invites chaos. At the same time, the Chanticleers have scored 40 points or more in 3 of their last 5, so the offense is still throwing punches even while the defense is wobbling. Louisiana Tech brings its own firepower to the table. They have won 2 in a row and have put up at least 34 points in 3 of their last 5. That kind of steady output keeps them live in higher scoring games and makes long stretches of quiet offense less likely. When you stack those trends together, it is not surprising that Louisiana Tech has gone over a total of 51.5 in 3 of their last 5. Coastal Carolina has pushed past that same 51.5 number in 5 straight, which is a pretty loud hint that their games have turned into regular shootouts. So when you put it all together, both recent scoring form and total trends point in the same direction, toward a game that is much more likely to land above the current total than under it. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Tennessee versus Illinois. Bowl games often really come down to a simple thing: who actually wants to be there more? In this spot, that question hangs directly over Tennessee. The Volunteers started the season with playoff dreams after last year's run, but those hopes took a real hit in November with that damaging home loss to Oklahoma. Since then, the record has been polished with wins over New Mexico State and a Florida team that is clearly in chaos. The whole campaign then closed on a sour note: a home loss to Vanderbilt where effort and urgency seemed to sit firmly on the underdog sideline. Vandy grabbed that chance with both hands, while Tennessee walked away with even more questions than answers. Illinois looks at this bowl in a very different light. They did crack the top 10 early in the regular season, but they were never truly built for a full Big Ten title push this year. That reality showed up as soon as you saw Indiana, Ohio State, and a road trip to Washington on the slate, and they did not look competitive in any of those games. Even so, Illinois has shown that it can compete physically and punch above its weight when the situation is right, which matters in a spot like this. A bowl matchup against a big-name SEC opponent that might already be thinking about 2026 is exactly the type of chance that can sharpen their focus. Illinois also plays a style that directly targets Tennessee's biggest strength, the offense. By controlling the line of scrimmage, shortening the game, and limiting possessions, the Illini can keep the Volunteers' explosive attacks sitting on the sideline for long stretches. That approach is especially important against a Tennessee defense that is allowing nearly 29 points per game. If Illinois can grab a lead, it can then let its defensive front really go after the backfield and disrupt Tennessee's rhythm, which is what that group loves to do. With Illinois catching less than a field goal, the number itself signals that this is a manageable assignment for the underdog. In bowl season, motivation always matters, and here those intangible edges appear to line up on the Illini side. So an outright Illinois win sits firmly on the table. As our first pick for this matchup, the Illinois Fighting Illini to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Illini have a clear path when things are going their way, slow the game down, control the ball, and keep Tennessee's offense on the sideline as long as possible. They are comfortable grinding out long, methodical drives, shrinking quarters, and turning games into physical contests at the line. That style cuts down total possessions, and for an oversitting at this number, a smaller possession count is a real problem. Tennessee's defense is part of the story too. The Volunteers do allow points, but that alone does not guarantee a wild total. Illinois is far more likely to finish drives in a steady, deliberate way than to rely on quick strikes, which means the clock keeps running even while they score. That steady pace quietly drains time again and again. There is also strong correlation in how this total plays out. If Illinois is in position to win, then it is almost certainly controlling tempo. If Tennessee ends up setting the tempo, the overall shape of the game still leans toward the under because Illinois is not built to trade non-stop explosive plays. A high-scoring shootout suits Tennessee and cuts against what Illinois does best. This total is priced as if pace and fireworks are the default setting, but that offensive script only fully materializes if the Volunteers carry the day. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. USC versus TCU. Bowl season keeps rolling on Tuesday, and this Alamo Bowl really does feel like one of the more interesting games on the board. You have the USC Trojans and the TCU Horned Frogs, two programs with big names and big expectations, and both show up to San Antonio missing a pile of players. On the surface, it is not shocking to see USC favored. They went 9-3 compared to TCU's 8-4, grade better in the efficiency numbers on both sides of the ball, and did it against a tougher schedule. Offensively, USC sits around 7th in expected points added per play with a defense around 60th, while TCU is closer to 47th and 63rd, and USC's slate ranks about 30th compared to TCU in the high 50s. So, if you just check records and spreadsheets, the Trojans look like the logical chalk. Here is where it gets messy. USC will have starting quarterback Jaden Maeva, which sounds reassuring, but his support system is gutted. He will not have his top 3 targets, Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane, and tight end Lake McRee. Those are not just names. Those 3 combined for 158 catches, 2,351 yards, and 19 touchdowns. That is basically ripping out the core of the passing game. What is left is a true freshman with only 28 career receptions as the primary option, which is a tough ask in a bowl spotlight. The offensive line is not exactly intact either. 2 starters are already ruled out with injuries, and another is sitting in that uncomfortable, questionable bucket. So you are talking about a quarterback with a thinned-out receiving core standing behind a patched-together line. That is a lot of fragility tucked inside a favorite that the market is still pricing off the full-season body of work. Defensively, the attrition might even be worse. 4 of the 5 highest-graded Trojans defenders have stepped away from this game. They will be missing 3 of their top 5 players in tackles for loss up front, plus their top linebacker, plus their top 2 coverage players in the secondary. That is the spine of a defense. When that many difference makers sit, the scheme on paper rarely matches the version on the field. TCU, in contrast, is much closer to whole. Yes, starting quarterback Josh Hoover is out, but it helps a lot when the backup has real mileage. Ken Seals has 22 career starts in the SEC, has thrown for 4,418 yards and 29 touchdowns, and gives you a calm, experienced presence running the show. Against a heavily depleted USC roster, that kind of stability under center can go a long way. Suddenly, the spread that looks fair in a full-strength world starts to feel a bit generous toward the Trojans. The season has not gone the way Sonny Dykes would have hoped, so on paper it is easy to label it forgettable. But this is still a talented roster that is relatively intact for this bowl, and that creates a very real chance to reset the mood heading into next year. Beating a program with USC's name recognition on a neutral field is exactly the kind of result that can do that, especially when the opponent is patching holes everywhere. So the idea of TCU not just hanging around, but actually pulling the upset makes sense with the current personnel picture. As our first pick for this matchup, the TCU Horned Frogs to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. On TCU's side, quarterback Josh Hoover is out, and he is joined on the unavailable list by wide receiver Jordan Dwyer and running back Kavorian Barnes. That is a lot of potential production taken off the field. Even with USC's defense missing a considerable number of its own key pieces, that many losses make it tougher for the Horned Frogs to string together explosive drives. There is another wrinkle, and it is on the sideline, not the field. Offensive coordinator Kendall Briles will not be calling plays for this game. For a bowl offense already missing multiple skilled players, losing the primary play caller can nudge things toward a more conservative, simplified approach. That usually does not scream track meet. It is not that TCU cannot move the ball at all. It is more that the setup here hardly screams wide open, all gas, no brakes. On the other side, USC still has Jaden Mayava available. He has recommitted for another season, so this game can double as a bit of a springboard for him. However, his situation is not exactly ideal either. With all the roster turnover and the absence of his top wide receiver duo, Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, the Trojans' passing game will not look like its usual fireworks show. That is why it makes sense to expect USC to lean more heavily on the ground attack. If you know your best receivers are out and your offensive line is patched, you are more likely to simplify, lean into the run game, and try to pick on a TCU defense that has not put up eye-popping numbers against the run this season. Running the ball more often is not just about style, it also keeps the clock rolling. Combine that with a Horned Frogs offense missing its starter, two important weapons, and its play caller, and suddenly a lower scoring, clunkier game script looks much more likely than a fireworks show. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.